Hello to my new YouTube video. You are here with your host Dan, and today I will show you how to paint Morannon orcs. So in last video I unboxed Morannon orcs, and so now I will tell you how to paint them. So here I have a single warband of these guys with an orc mane here. So the way to paint these miniatures, so now I will show you one of them. I think it's rather good. Or maybe, I don't know, this one. No, here with this one with spear. This one. So you see that I've painted these miniatures for my army. So they are not looking very fantastic at once. For example, here are many bad things. But all in all army, where I have 3 warbands of these guys, it's really looks greatly. So if you want to make a good looking army of Morannon orcs and not to spend a lot of time for this, I will tell the instructions, and if you do like this, you have the same result. So I spent for one warband near 2.5 days. So for 24 orcs, you will spend near 3 days. So it's really good result, and I think it's really good. So also I have the banner barrier with the banner. Yes, here's the banner and the banner barrier. So he's like a common Morannon orc. Here I have Morannon orc captain. He's a little bit. I haven't painted his face yet. And the orc drummer. So with his drum. Yes, you see. So the first step when you paint these guys, you base coat them with black base coat, citadel base coat. So as I haven't got black base coat, I used white base coat, and then I put just black base to all of these miniatures. Yes, it's not important how you do, but it's better to use just only black base coat, because you will spend fewer time on this and it will be more comfortable for you. So the next stage, I took my standard dry brush and dry paint of Necron compound, and dry brush all the places of the model where it should have metal color. So as you can see, the difficult here was when I decided how to paint these miniatures, that here on the box their armor wasn't I'm not sure that you see, but you can see it on yours, that the armor of the Morannon orcs wasn't almost metal, but it had black in the middle, so where are shades. So it wasn't a good idea to just paint them with a metallic base, then shade it with Nuln oil, and then a little bit with highlight it, because it will be shiny, very shiny for these orcs. So it will be like, for example, these new Gundabad orcs. So yes, it was shaded with Morannon oil, but yet it has a result of shining silver. Armor, but in this case we shouldn't have, say, this effect. So the dry brush had a really good effect because it made this effect which we need, so with black metal armor. So the next stage, so when you did dry brush, you have in most of the painting of these miniatures. So afterwards some details. So I even dry brushed my shields, these metal shields, because they were really good for dry brushing. Where is another shield? Oh, I think it's... So, it's not important. So, the next stage was to paint their trousers, yes, with red. So, I very fast looked at the box and saw that their clothes is red, yes, but the problem was that not whole trousers should be red, but just these. You can see here it should be red, but not here on the box. They haven't red trousers here, but I've painted it red, and now I'm glad that they are. But now I'm glad that I did this, because before it the models looked very dark black and not very interesting, but now the models looks funny, because not funny as we mean, but it's really different. So you should take Mephiston red. So my Citadel paint ended on this Morannon, so I can show you the photos. And the next stage, when it completely dried, to shade it with Morannon oil. Yes. After this, you have a really good effect of shades, and I haven't actually highlighted it because I thought that it's orcs, so they shouldn't have very dry and good looking clothes. So in another way, they should have very dirty, dark clothes. So I thought that it should be this dark, so red with black in some places, and it's really great because highlights will make some good effect for the evil model, so it wasn't good. The next stage I do was all brown parts of the miniature. So it was the shields, the spears, in some cases, no, just shields and spears. I've painted it with Morannon brown. Yes, and then when it was completely dried, I've also shaded with Morannon oil. Yes, and it made also a great effect, but it's not so looking because so brown and brown, but at the first it was really bright, but after Morannon oil it became really wooded brown. And the next stage I do on these models is to paint their metal parts of their weapon, for example swords and their spears. Yes, I forgot it. And it was also really easy because I used lead belcher, then nude oil, and then a little bit iron breaker. It made really now it made shining effect of the weapon, because the weapon was really, I think that the weapon was really often to use, and it was shining because, so you know, if you use metal weapon very frequently, it became shining. So, and the last I've done on the Morannon orc warriors is to paint their faces and arms with green paint. So I haven't used here Citadel paints because I hadn't got this color, but I used shining green color. So it was firstly it was a problem, but then I also shaded it with nude oil, and the last thing was to dry brush it with the white scar, because when I've shaded with nude oil it was not very great, because in some places you had shining green, really bright, and in others it was dark green. So dry brushing made more of their faces really bright, and but for example here it is still dark. Yes. So this is the warriors. Yes, and the next what I want to tell you is how to paint special parts of these of the banner berries. So it is not really hard, because you also base coat it with black, do as with other Morannon warriors, except red, because here is no place to paint it red. Then paint all the wood places with Morannon brown, then shade it with nude oil. But when you paint the banner, you should just paint this part, yes, here, with white paint. And but I haven't painted actually everything of this to make some dirty effect, and so orc effect, as you can understand me. And it gives it, because now it's not really a good looking banner, it's awful orc banner. So, and then I dry brushed all the black areas of the miniature, and I think that's all, because so here's nothing to do. And the next thing is that what I've done with this skeleton, this face. Yes, the first thing I've done is to paint it with actually white paint. Now I will explain why. Then shade it with Agrox shade. It's made really good shades, but not as nude oil, just black. But they were, you know, the effect of Agrox shade. I think that you are not first at painting ninjas. So the next stage was to dry brush it with Screaming Skull. So it's a layer, but it's also good for dry brushing, because it's rather bright but not white. And here I stopped with this, but when I painted Morannon Captain, I also painted the hair of this hat with black, and dry brushed it also a Screaming Skull, because it was easy to paint all his head. So that's the Morannon Captain, the Morannon banner barrier, and actually it has the same technique when you paint Morannon, just auction main, yes, because just here, except also you shouldn't paint it with white, with red as warriors, but to dry brush all his clothes except here the armor. Yes, and all other stages are the same. And the last Morannon hero in Morannon Commander's blister, not blister but a box, I think it will be better to say, is the drummer. He hasn't actually something special, but I should say that his trousers are painted with Zenry dust and then shaded with Agrix Earth shade. So I also hasn't highlighted it because I wanted to make a dirty effect on his clothes. And in the same way I've done with his drum. So I painted with Zenry dust and shaded with Agrix Earth shade, and the last step was to a little bit dry brush it in these places, yes, on the corner of it, to make some highlights, because it's a drummer, and when he uses very often, it also became more brighter in the center, because you know it's the drum, so we didn't use it really often, it became really brighter in the center. So this is the way of how I painted these Morannoks. For bases I use this texture paint, and then I used the grass, citadel grass, yes. And the last point was to paint the corners of their bases with XD89. Yes, this is the name of this strange named paint. So that's all. It's a guide of how to paint Morannon miniatures, Morannon warriors and their commands. So have a really great strategy beta gaming, and we'll see in the next videos.